Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. A king came out of his palace and saw a beggar right outside his palace. He went to the beggar and said, "Please move away from here. You are a disgrace to my kingdom." The beggar said, "I have one request, one demand. If you could fulfill it, I'll go away. I'll never come back again." The king said, "Tell me, what is your demand?" He said, "I have a bowl. If you could just fill it up with anything you have, I'll go away." The king took out his pearl necklace, put it inside, and it disappeared. The king was shocked, but he had given his word. He needed to fulfill it. So he told his ministers, "By the time I come back in the evening, I want this beggar gone." When he came back in the evening, the ministers were tired and almost going to cry and said, "Sir, we don't know what to do. The treasury, half the treasury is gone, but the fulfillment of his bowl is impossible, because whatever we put inside, it just disappears. We have to give up." The king went to that beggar and said, "Just tell us one thing. What is your bowl made of?" He said, "This bowl is made of human skull, the human mind. Whatever you put inside just disappears." And that is the story of Man. The mind, the strongest tool in our body, and can be our greatest weakness too. Because the mind is what? It is made of thoughts, emotions, reactions, conditioning, memories, everything combined together is what we call as our mind. The conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious, everything. To be able to understand this is to be able to rise above all what has been mentioned. Guru Sahib says it is not that simple a task, and sometimes you have to use mind to be able to speak to the mind. There is one is emotional mind, then there is intellectual mind. But the term that Guru Sahib uses is wise mind. The mind full of wisdom, or Gurmat, Guru Di Mat. If you are able to use that, then you are able to come to terms of understanding your emotional mind and win it. Jinne man liya. Those who have been able to rise above the emotional mind, those who don't get governed by man mat, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਨ ਮੁਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਨੇ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਨ ਤੋਂ ਪਰੇ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ, those who have been able to understand the weaknesses of the mind. Going from Sunay, 4 bodies of Sunay is to listen or to be attentive, to be aware about each and everything that goes on inside. If you are able to attentively understand what is going on, then you would understand the emotional mind more and more. And those who have been able to understand the emotional mind and not been slaves of that, Guru Sahib starts the 12th body by saying, "Manne ki gat kahi na jaye." ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੰਨ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਜਿੱਤਦੇ ਨੇ, those who are able to conquer the emotions and the thoughts, who have been so present that their mind is not troubling them anymore. ਮੰਨੇ ਕੀ ਗਤੀ ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਸਪੀਡ ਜਾਂ state of mind. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਮੰਨੇ ਕੀ ਗਤ ਕਹੀ ਨਾ ਜਾਏ. You cannot describe the state of mind of a person who has been able to come over it. Je ko kahe, pichhe pachtaye. The one who tries to describe will always repent because something is going to be amiss. Kagad kalam na likhanhar. No pens, no papers are going to be enough to be able to elaborate how that state of mind is. We can call it mindfulness, we can call it mindlessness, or you can say you have gone beyond the mind. Interestingly, in our language, the word for mind is man. And if you add era before man, it becomes aman. To say amani avastha means gone beyond the mind. Interestingly, aman also means peace. In fact, to say they are the same. Amani avastha, having aman, having peace inside, because you're not boggled by the mind so much. It happens to us, we are sitting somewhere, trying to concentrate on doing something, and the mind is already gone. I remember my first English lecture in college. My English professor walked in, and we were all science students. He asked us, what is the one thing that is the fastest thing in this world? And everybody raised their hands. Of course, the answer that we had was light. He said, if light is your answer, then put your hands down. I'm going to share with you something that is even faster than that. We were all shocked. How can there be anything faster than that? And he said, all right, tell me the distance from Earth to Moon. And somebody raised his hand and said the answer. He said, how long does it take for light to reach the moon? A few seconds were there. He said, interestingly, the moment I said the word moon, your mind was already there. You had the picture of moon, that white orb. How long did it take your mind to go there? Not even the fraction of a second. So the fastest thing that he said, my friends, is your mind, faster than light. It disappears without any warning, and to be able to understand it is to become very stable, very present. Only then the mind doesn't trouble. That's the first sign of it. Kagad kalam na likhan har, manne ka beh karan vichar. Those who sit down and try to analyze the state of mind of a person who has gone beyond the mind. He says, ऐसा नाम निरंजन होए जे को मन जाने मन कोई. It cannot be described, but it can be experienced. In such a beautiful way, he's going to talk about mind and going beyond the mind. And he says what happens with that is, ऐसा नाम निरंजन होए. Such are the divine virtues that come inside. Nam is the collective term for all the divine virtues which are inside us that we are supposed to get from understanding the way of the Guru. He says, you become so engrossed in Nam that inside you there is no malice left. Niranjan means anjan to rahat, without any blemish. Jeko man jane man koi. Those who experience it, only they know what is being talked about. Manne surt hove man buddh. He says the first thing that happens is, just like in Sunaya, you become aware. Surti jaag jandi hai. You do not sleep, not physically speaking. You do not sleep means you are attentive of each and everything that goes on. And hence you gain that wisdom of being in the moment. Manne surt hove man buddh, manne sagal pavan ki sudh. You are aware about each and everything that goes on around you. Manne muh chota na khaye. A person who has become so aware, so beyond the mind, does not ever get slaps on the face, means does not get ridiculed. Manne जम के साथ ना जाए. That person does not die a spiritual death. Why? Because ऐसा नाम निरंजन होए, ऐसा उसके अंदर एक भाव उजागर हुंदा है नाम दा. जे को मन जाने मन कोए, जे कोई इंसान लगन लगा लवे, if a person is able to walk on this path and is able to attain this quality, only that person would know. मन्ने मार्ग ठाक ना पाए, मन्ने पथ स्यों प्रगट जाए. Then the walk on the path of righteousness is not away from that person. That person is honored. मन्ने पथ स्यों प्रगट जाए, हमेशा उसनू इज्जत मिलेगी. मन्ने मग न चले पंथ. Very interesting line. वो इंसान सही रस्ते ते चलेगा, हालांकि उसदा कोई पंथ निर्धारित नहीं हो सकता. That person might not walk on fixed paths, but whatever that person does, whatever paths that person takes will not be wrong. Means a lot of times we walk on fixed paths which are given to us by certain religions because they are the do's and don'ts of the society. Not wrong, they are right. But as things change, an enlightened person, a spiritual person may challenge certain ways, but that person's stance or walk will never be wrong. मन्ने मग न चले पंथ, मन्ने धर्म से ती संबंध. क्योंकि उसका संबंध, उसका रिश्ता, that person's relation will be with the true dharma, not just religion. Dharma, what is dharma? We will discuss about this as we progress in Japji Sahib. ऐसा नाम निरंजन होए, जे को मन जाने मन कोए, मन्ने पावे मोख द्वार. A spiritual person who is able to go beyond just the desires of the mind or the tormentations of the mind is able to find liberation, is able to find mukti. Manne pave mokh dwar, manne parvare sadhar. Interestingly, these two lines don't come together in many religions. Those who become liberated, they leave their families and go away. But Guru Sahib says, such is the beauty of a spiritual person, a true spiritual person. He or she will be able to find liberation, but will not have to forsake anything. Will actually enhance what family a person has. The relationships will not be a burden. In fact, nothing pulls that person down. Manne parvare sadhar. Manne tare tare gur sikh. Guru aap tarda te sikh nu tarda hai. ਭੱਜ ਕੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ. A spiritual person doesn't have to run away anywhere. ਹਸੰਦਿਆਂ, ਖੇਡੰਦਿਆਂ, ਪਹਿਨੰਦਿਆਂ, ਖਾਵੰਦਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚੇ ਹੋਵੇ ਮੁਕਤ. The path of liberation that the Guru has shown us is not to run away from any of your duties, from anything that you have in life. You can be liberated while working, while enjoying everything. It's the mind that needs to be liberated. You don't have to run away anywhere. That's why Guru Sahib says, every spiritual person should be a working person. Every spiritual person should be a family person. It's not a necessity, but if you have a family, you don't have to abandon anything and go away. And you don't have to beg for your livelihood. You earn, you make your money, you take care of your people, and yet you are liberated. ਮੰਨੈ ਨਾਨਕ ਭਵੈ ਨਾ ਭਿਖ. ਉਹ ਭਿਖਿਆ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਭੌਂਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਨੇ. They don't go from door to door begging for their livelihood. They earn their livelihood and they feed their family, and other people too. Because if it is all about the mind needs to be liberated. You cannot just run away and expect the world won't be there. The world is still going to be there. ऐसा नाम निरंजन होए जे को मन जाने मन कोय जे कोई मन के जे कोई इस रस्ते ते तुरे only that person will be able to understand and be able to rise above the small desires or the leading of the mind. Then that person's wisdom will be so strong that it will lead the emotions and the intellect. The emotions won't be leading that person. That person will not be a slave of anyone or anything. Beautiful 4 verses. Again, as I said, attentiveness and going beyond the mind are some things we can learn, but it might take a long time to be able to practice. But those who are blessed might not take too long to understand and follow. Thank you so much for listening, Ji. Apologies for the mistakes. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.